without any further ado, let's bring up our guest for the evening. He's been on once before, Spartan Mike from New York Giants Rush. Mike, welcome back to the show. How are you doing? Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Appreciate you.
Tom, hey, man, it's great to be back. I know I was around here this time last year and, in much better spirits this time because, of course, we have a chance now to seal the deal and make the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. Long overdue for the Giants. I mean, it's been very, very tough. I know teams go on 6-year, have gone on worse playoff droughts, but I mean, this one feels particularly bad because of how awful we were. We never even really breached that 7-9, 8-8 area. I mean, it was 6-10 at best. So I'm doing good. Christmas has been good. Fortunately, I got to spend a lot of time with the family, and again, appreciate you guys having me.
That's awesome, and we're looking forward to chatting with you as always. See, you're wearing is that Michael Strahan?
This is my Christmas gift. As I said, this is Michael Strahan. I love it, Hank. We're both repping.
Yeah, I mean, same position, but this just came in the mail.
Nice.
Before Christmas, the Kayvon Thibodeau Color Rush. So
that looks fantastic. It's a sharp-looking jersey.
Thank you. Yeah, this is only my second white jersey I've ever gotten.
Yeah, so who was your first white jersey?
It was Victor Cruz, Super Bowl 46 jershy.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. But Mike, for those who are new, may not know who you are,
sure.
Why don't you plug yourself and where people can find your content over at Giants Rush?
Absolutely, guys. I mean, I'm with New York Giants Rush. I was brought onto the platform about a year and a half ago by Craig. Craig's the guy who runs it. And we do also, obviously we mainly focus on the Giants. We're branching now that we got Nikki, and we're doing fantasy. We're doing, betting advice and everything like that. We're going to do a draft show in the off season. So, I'm generally on every other Tuesday, but I'll also be on every Thursday. And me and Truth, I'll host the show, but Truth is really the expert there. And he spends a lot of time breaking down these players. So lots of exciting stuff. Follow me on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube. And that's pretty much it. We're trying to expand on other platforms, but it's like we've been on Twitter so long, it's very difficult for us to learn how to make magic happen on Instagram. So
if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's
you're right.
That I like to use.
Great.
But, all right, Henry, you are. I think we're gonna go you and then me, right? Is that how we're gonna do this? Just making sure.
Yeah, I believe so. So,
all right.
I think this question needs to be asked, and let's go. Mika Zibanejad scores a goal, 1-0 Rangers. How does it feel to be in a position where the Giants can clinch a playoff berth for the first time in 6 years?
This is absolutely incredible. Quick story. I got a last-second Frontier flight. I live in Chicago. Got a last-second flight out to New York. I'm going to take my dad out to the game. And because I'm just so excited, it would be a fantastic finish to this year if the Giants make the playoffs. Because I'll tell you what, guys, you tell me how you feel. I don't care if we win a playoff game. I mean, if we lose one, so be it. We didn't expect to be here right now. It means a lot to the fan base. We've been suffering for quite some time now. And this would be absolutely incredible if we can, just seal off the Colts and take gold and go into the playoffs. If we lose the Colts, I know we can still make the playoffs, but it's very challenging, and it's also still defeating no matter what at that point.
Yeah, and like I said, if we get into the playoffs, it wouldn't really feel the same if we got a backdoor party invitation as opposed to handling the business ourselves. But yeah, to piggyback off what you're saying, I keep seeing a lot of people comparing this team to 2016, and I hate hearing those comparisons for this reason. I mean, if you look back at 2016, that was a team that was essentially a last-ditch effort to get Eli Manning that third Lombardi ring. And that was a team where, look, Jerry Reese essentially spent money like a drunken sailor.
He poured his soul into it. Yeah, he was about to get fired.
He sold his soul, yeah, and this was essentially like a last-chance team.
Right.
I mean, I know we had hope going into 2017, and I don't really want to bring back any of those bad memories from that year, but we really had false hope that was a chance, and that was really a bunch of veterans. This year, it's really all about getting a young core in the playoffs and getting them that first taste of what winning football is like.
Right.
So I really think, and everyone's I keep getting the question, is it going to be a success or a failure if the Giants make it or don't make it? I mean, I probably still would look at it as a success regardless, because they won 8 games and they exceeded my preseason win expectation total, but getting them into the playoffs is that one step to really changing the culture of a young football team, in my honest opinion.
I'm totally with you. Look, I mean, I'd still mark the season as a success. I mean, I think Vegas had us as the over-under was like seven games, so we won 8, which is better than we've done in any other year, and we got to that mark before we got to the 17th game. So this has been, definitely a good run. And as you're saying, we have a lot of guys on rookie contracts that are stepping up and delivering value. Dexter Lawrence, he was okay the last few years. He was a good player, but now he's a stud. And that's what we needed from a lot of these players. And a lot of guys are stepping up. Secondary, I thought that was going to be our worst unit. It still needs some work, but they're playing formidable defense. They're doing a decent job of covering. Yeah. I will say this. A lot of this comes down to coaching. I think Dable and Wink have specifically done a very good job of improving this team and getting the best out of their players. And Dable set the foundation day one when they went for 2 against the Titans. And then, we all know what happened next with the Titans trying to kick that field goal. But like when we watched that game, we felt the difference right there. Like we felt that there was going to be some winning ahead, right? So it's definitely been a successful season. It's still going to leave a bad taste in the mouth if we don't beat the Colts, though. I will say that. Like, if our last 2 games, the 49ers and the Chiefs, I mean, we'd say, all right, well, we got this far. That's fine. But you got to beat the Colts at home, I feel like. Yeah.
To answer your question, Mike, I agree. I just want to get in. But I think if we go back to Minnesota, there's a chance we could beat them. Obviously, we need San Francisco to leapfrog them to get that matchup. But people are saying there's a better shot Minnesota jumps Philly, which I don't think is possible.
I don't think that's going to happen, no.
I don't think it'll happen. But if Philly wins this week, that's it. They're the 1 seed. But, yeah, I mean, look, you're right. I think there's a lot of positivity to build off of. And I think a lot of that has to do with the quarterback play as well. It's improved and the coaching has helped. Jones has helped his own case. I think a lot of people who weren't on board with Jones last year, I wouldn't say definitely not all, but I'd say a good chunk of them are on board with him this year.
I would agree.
My question to you, Mike, is does he get that contract extension? I mean, pretty impressive performance against Minnesota. He's had a good season. What do you think?
You know what one of the biggest value adds is, because everybody who's big against Jones, and I've gone back and forth on certain things about him, but my stance is this. Somebody tried bringing up Matt Ryan's stats and comparing them, putting them as if they were similar players. And sure, their stats are similar, but the one big difference here is Jones does not turn over the ball at all, and that in its own has been extremely impressive, because that's very hard to only have 5 turnovers throughout the entire season. And that's the thing. We're not, we'll have some drives that end, but nothing's ending in complete disaster. He's not throwing picks, at the wrong side of the 20, and then we're giving up points that way. He's playing very consistent football. What I would like to see in the future out of him, and obviously this is going to take better receivers, he doesn't have that yet, is a few times a year he's got to have those crazy numbers. And not just yards, but he's got to put up 3 or 4 touchdowns. Just a couple times a year. I just want to see it happen. Does he get the contract this year? Probably, because you have to consider the alternatives, and there's not really that many. I highly doubt that any of these rookies are going to step up and guaranteeingly bring that value that we would need out of franchise quarterback, and let alone put them in a better situation anyway. I don't think the Giants are completely ready for a rookie quarterback. And then when you talk about free agents, I mean, I don't think anybody would be a better option than Jones, especially, like Carr is the one that some fans are bringing up. I'm not so, if you're not convinced that Jones is the guy, how are you convinced that Carr is? And it's been 9 years of football out of him, and he's okay, but I can't imagine him hoisting a Lombardi.
No.
So I think he gets I think he gets the extension. The only thing that can knock him out of it is price. If he asks for too much money, that could impact that.
Yeah, and the game-winning drives too has been very key for me. Even though and this is my thing with Jones too. I don't know if you feel the same way. Hank and I have talked about this in the past. The reason why they haven't taken deep shots in a lot of these games, it takes these receivers longer time to get separation against these DBs. And the offensive line is much better in run blocking than they are in pass pro. We've seen that.
Especially Evan Neal. He's night and day with run and pass.
I'd say both guys on the right side of the line. One of them, which you and I both predicted the Giants to land, back last January, if you remember that.
Lewinsky, right?
Yeah, that
Yes.
was the one. And then when it happened, and I'm like, Mike said, "Oh, Mike said the same thing." That was pretty cool. But
I still see the screenshot in my mind from when you
yeah,
said that, Tom.
Great minds think alike. That's it.
But what about Saquon, Mike? How do you feel about him? 5th year again, 4th most rushing yards in the league.
Yes.
Leads the team in receptions as well. I know a lot of these passes are short to him, but him and Jones, to me at least, they seem to be inseparable. Like those two guys are leaders, and it's very tough for me to justify letting one of them go when the team is trending in the right direction and you've set a foundation with both of them. It just sucks because we know a running back's life shelf and we know the cost of potentially paying a running back. But the problem is Saquon's not your ordinary running back.
He's not your ordinary running back. Everybody says that running backs don't bring the value, and if you look at the average, that's correct. However, Saquon's a little different. He brings a lot of impact to the Giants, and most of our drives, especially the game-winning ones, obviously a lot of that is Jones. He's making great decisions, but I mean, Saquon eats up a lot of yards on those drives as well. And if we lose him next year, that's going to significantly impact this team no matter what. So they're going to have to figure that one out. I mean, the only alternative is, because money's obviously going to be a factor here, right? I mean, if we sign both those guys, that's going to tie up just about all the assets that we have in the free season. Maybe room for, a couple more guys. I know we can cut Galladay after the June 1st and get $13 million there. So the only other alternative, and I'd hate to see it happen, but if the Giants do lose Saquon because the money doesn't work out, is get a running back in like the third round pick. Somewhere around that ballpark, use the Tony pick and just get a running back then. I think rookie running backs have a lot of impact. They come at a relatively cheap price. And there's always options available because a lot of times these teams aren't willing to spend a first on a running back anymore.
Actually, before Hank gets to his next question, so would you say it's more likely Jones stays than Barkley if you had to pick one, if it came down to it?
Totally. Now, again, it depends on money. If Saquon's doing team friendly and Jones isn't, then Saquon stays. Yeah. Jones is going to be a battle in the works to get a contract signed. But at this point, I'd say so. With a quarterback consistency thing, it's definitely more of a guarantee. I feel like that we get Daniel Jones back because the issue with Saquon is not, again, he's very talented, but I mean, if he gets hurt, we're out for a lot, and he has been hurt frequently, and that's the unfortunate reality, as you kind of mentioned with running backs. And I just feel like they're going to be in a little bit more of a race to kind of secure the quarterback than they will the running back. Again, would hate to see it go. Really hope they can get both guys and continue to build this team. But there's definitely going to be some challenges this offseason. And if anybody had to go first, it might be Barkley at this point.
Yeah, that's definitely makes sense, but I think you guys know I'm a little bit more on the Daniel Jones train for guys who I think the Giants should sign. Tom especially should know because, we both been Daniel Jones supporters. I kind of leaned. I don't know that he's necessarily the long-term answer for sure, but with that being said, I definitely think you got to keep him around for the next few years. He can win you games.
I don't know
if he's an elite quarterback is all.
No, I hear you. I think the best thing the Giants can do is look, you get him for a few years here. Obviously, we're spending money, but if the Giants at any point along those few years find a quarterback they fall in love with that falls in their lap in the draft pick, well, go ahead and get him. I think that's the best thing to do, and I actually think it's more beneficial if you look back at Rodgers, and you look back at. I'm going to try to go through the list here. Mahomes. And actually Brady technically too. I think it's better if these rookie quarterbacks get a year where they sit the bench and don't immediately face that New York City pressure. Because then by the end of that 1 year, they're hungry to go out there and compete. They don't care about the media. They're just all right, just give it to me. But
Eli 2004, same way when we had remember when we had Kurt Warner?
Right, yeah. Remember that? Eli probably could have just sat that entire year. Truly. He got the experience, but then 2005 came around. We knew that we had a good quarterback in him, right? And that's what this sets up. You can almost look at it because I'm not going to say Jones is a bridge QB. He's better than that. It'd be similar to Alex Smith with Washington. With Kansas City there before Mahomes came on. That's a situation that they could set up in the future. But again, if Jones does have that elite, explosive play that we need, then screw him. We keep on to him, and we didn't sign him for $250 million. It'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. And hey, 2005, that's one of the first Giants memories that I actually have. So there you go.
Yeah, me too. That's funny you say that because it's like they were good that year, and it's like, I was 9 years old, and it was like, all right,
Oh, same age.
Perfect.
Same
96
age.
I love it, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. But anyways, back to my question before
Sure.
I reminisce about the good old days. Offensively, who is a guy that you say needs to step up in order for the Giants to win a playoff game if they can pull off what seems like the impossible? But there's really no such thing as impossible if we look at the NFL playoffs.
I hear you. I think, step up. Like, look, I want to say Evan Neal because obviously he's the most detrimental person out there. I think he's got the most potential. Don't worry, he's going to be fine in the long run. I'm not worried about that. But like him on the field right now is a liability. So it's kind of him. But if it comes to just cleaning up their act, I'm going to say Richie James. He's got to stop dropping the balls.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
If he doesn't drop that ball, Jones has like over 350 yards, and the Giants probably win the game.
Right. We're talking 20-yard passes that he's dropping here, first downs. That is a difference maker when it comes to success.
And I know it was Christmas Eve. I missed the 33-yard play. Were his feet actually in on that play? Because I know Bob Papa was saying that one was that.
From what I saw,
I was driving and listening to it. Okay. I wasn't sure, but he has been a problem. He has been a problem this year.
Right. And again, it's one of those things where, sometimes he does make really good plays for us, but it kind of reminds me of all those other Gettleman era players where it's like, sometimes they bring value and then other days they're just completely, going negative on us and having a negative impact by being out there. And that's the frustrating thing. It's like, I don't want any more of those players. I want guys that are consistently doing their job. They don't have to be all pros, but like if the ball's in your hands, catch it. So, that's what we definitely need out of him because that's extending drives right there.
And that's what Hodgins is doing, and
right.
I follow the Giants YouTube channel closely, and Hodgins, it's not just the play, it's the leadership all of a sudden.
Right.
Just come out of nowhere. I'm like, yep, this guy was really good. Couple comments here. Brian says this is what happens when practice players are put in key spots.
Brian brings up an excellent point. And I was just thinking that we were talking about this on the show the other day too, because Hodgins and James have been put out there now. Like they've gotten better as football players because they're putting given the chance now to play in the games, regardless of how talented they are. And for a guy like Hodgins, it's done wonders for him. And he's a good player. I would not want to get rid of him.
Yeah, I think he's a second-year guy, so he'd have 2 years left under his rookie deal with us, and that would be awesome. That's awesome to even think about. Let's go Giants. Shout out Kenny Marshall. Yeah, Kenny. Thank you very much for the comment. Now, Andrew Thomas going up against Yannick Ngakoue, who we all know is a fierce edge rusher for the Indianapolis Colts.
Sure.
And then Mark Glowinski, the former Colt, going up against DeForest Buckner, who he's practiced against in the past. What do you think of those two matchups? Because I think those two matchups are going to determine a lot in this game. Thomas has given up just 19 pressures this year. Oh wow, Leonard Marshall's. Oh, that's right. You guys interviewed Leonard Marshall, right?
We did. Yeah, we had Leonard Marshall on the podcast around February last year. Kenny, what's going on, man?
What's up, Kenny? Thank you so much for that comment. Appreciate you. Any questions you have for us, we'll be happy to answer them. But, Mike, back to that point, not to digress. Those two matchups in particular, I think, are going to determine a lot in this game. What do you think of Thomas and Glowinski this season? Because those are the only two guys that have started every game for us consistently at their respective positions on the line.
I think Thomas can seal the deal. We've gone up against some phenomenal edge rushers. It's never really them that gets to us. Like it was never Aaron Donald every time we played him that got to the quarterback, right? The issue for the Giants is always like somebody random kind of coming in and having an excellent day against us. I'm forgetting who the Cardinals player was. Who was it for the Cardinals that had like 5 sacks against us?
Reddick.
God almighty, I remember that.
He was on the Eagles line.
In this situation, I'm way more worried about Glowinski against DeForest Buckner because here's a situation where he's also on that side of the ball. Yeah. And, I totally see a very good chance that Glowinski and Evan Neal are going to screw up the coordination or the assignments and DeForest Buckner's going to blow them up and get to Jones. That's what I'm most worried about for this game, actually. I say this: Giants need to score 20 points. They've gone against good defenses. They're not completely shut down by good defenses. They did good against Washington. They're relatively comparable, but they're going to have to put up 20 points, and that should be enough to seal a victory for them.
I happen to agree with that too. Glow scares me a little bit in pass pro. I mean, we brought him in for run blocking. I think he's a poor man's Kevin Zeitler. I think we could say
Agreed.
that. Yeah, Hank, it'll be interesting. I know you're a big Andrew Thomas guy.
Absolutely, very big Thomas guy.
No, I think he stepped up so much.
And I think Thibodeau stepped up because of going up against Andrew Thomas in practice.
Yes,
quite frankly.
And Tom, I've been on record saying this all year, but I truly believe Andrew Thomas is the offensive MVP of this team. Mike, tell me if you disagree, if at all.
Impact-wise, I'd have to argue in favor of Saquon. Yeah. I know it's the bias towards the skill positions, but you are right. Like pound for pound, play for play, Andrew Thomas is doing an incredible job. He is.
Pay for play. That sounds like the sports.
Yeah, that's on the late night channel. I shouldn't be talking about that on here.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I think really both of them go hand in hand, but
totally.
I am somewhat biased towards Andrew Thomas, and the reason I say that is because, look, I was involved with football. I didn't play, but I was like the manager. But I remember when one of my assistant coaches back in high school used to tell me all the time, you can't have a solid running performance without a strong offensive line. So
you bring up a good point.
It pretty much, listen, that coach has shaped me with a lot of things. That's one of them.
Yep. Yeah, look, we saw with the Giants. I mean, that's the one position consistently the last decade that they have always struggled at. And this year has been better. I know Jones has gotten sacked a lot. I get it. But I can't sit here and say this offensive line is not better. Evan Neal's the one that's giving up the most sacks right now, but he's the rookie that's got to work on the footwork, and he'll get better. So I'm not worried about that. But we have more surefires at offensive line, I feel like, than any other team in the past 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. I would have to agree with you there. And Tom, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead of you with your term, but
you are not. No.
If you were the Giants GM and you're going to address the team's top 3 needs in the offseason, and I don't mean to sound like I'm getting ahead of myself here, but it's definitely something to think about once the season ends. What are the 3 biggest needs, and where would you rank them?
Order of operations right now is wide receiver because we are ranked 32. We are absolutely pitful at this position. They need somebody. Yeah. And they probably need 2 guys. They're probably going to have to draft somebody, and they're going to have to sign somebody because we need like a 1 and 2. Maybe Hodgins steps up in that role. That'd be great. But for the time being, I got to look at it how it is. We need 2 guys at wide receiver. Interior offensive line is the next. That's definitely an area of position that we need to upgrade. I think that Thomas, Bredesen, he's fine. Nick Gates, I want to bring him back and see if he improves after getting back from this injury, right? I think he's just a little bit slow to get back to it. Keep him at center. But then, this is an opportunity to draft and perhaps sign another guard to give depth for Glowinski because this has been extremely disappointing with him. I know we're out $7 million on him a year. After offensive line, I'm going to go inside linebacker because we need somebody. I don't think middle linebacker is the most important position on defense, but when it comes to the run game, we definitely need somebody in there that's like Martinez that's stuffing the run and preventing those extra yards, big carries, because we're giving up a lot of yards to running backs when we play them.
Yeah, those are all good ones.
I definitely corner too, as maybe number 3. Yeah, for me, because there's a lot of DoorDash players on this defense.
There are. When we get hurt, things get bad. Although every time, I am always a little surprised by how well the team performs.
Yeah.
In the secondary, I think.
Like Moreau.
Yeah, they're just doing a very good job of stepping it up this year. But you're right. It doesn't mean that we can't use more talent there. I just don't think cornerback is that position where it's we upgrade that and we're instantaneously like a much better team. I think wide receiver and guard, even if we get up to average, like 16 out of 32 teams at those positions, I mean, we're looking at a very good football team.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your point on interior O-line too. I mean, I think they paid Glow the money. He'll probably start again next year, but I do like your point. Give him competition, make him earn it. You know, Ben Bredesen will be on a contract year next year, so that's another guy. And like you said, we don't know. Nick Gates and John Feliciano are both up for deals. I think only one of them comes back. I would hope it's Gates.
I would hope it's Gates, yeah.
Those two. Feliciano gets me very, very mad, Mike.
It's awful. He's so bad.
He's not a center, too. He's a guard. That's his natural position. But
and he's not even good at that.
Yeah. He did come over with Brian Dable from Buffalo. Speaking of Brian Dable and this coaching staff, how do you feel? I know you touched upon this in one of your first statements, but how do you feel they've done with a roster that lacks depth this year? Because let's look at the Jets, for instance, right? Roster-wise, talent-wise, I feel like the Jets are better than the Giants, but they're missing that.
Couple holes on the Jets. They have a couple areas of serious needs, but it's like very specific. They have a lot of like Pro Bowl capable guys.
So what do you think? Again, this team, it's a similar roster that that the coaching staff last year had. How do you think they? I mean, 8 wins. That's a big accomplishment for a team that we weren't sure if they would win 4 or 5 again.
The most impressive thing about the coaching this year is that second half offense. They turn it around and they turn into something. Their in-game adjustments are the best that I've ever seen, and that takes some really, really good coaching. And this is where Dable is really showing, how good he is and how big of an asset he's going to be in the long run. He's getting the most out of the players. They're finding ways to position them. A lot of this falls on Wink as well. And I also like the aggression. Like, they are taking a few more shots, even though we're held back at receiver. He went for 2 against the Titans. I don't think Judge would have done that. I think he would have gone for 1. And to be honest with you, I think if he went for 1, tied it, the Titans kicker would have been a little bit more relaxed out there. And I actually think he would have gotten the field goal. I'd rather than be a little rattled out there. So I love that play call. And again, that's pretty much it. It's like the in-game adjustments is what he's killing it at. We're doing great against people or teams that are of our competition level. Anybody that's just as good as the Giants or worse, we've beaten. Or in the case of the Washington, it's a tie. We have lost some games this year, but they're generally pretty good teams. Seattle at home, they played a very good game that day. That was going to be tough. It's just been a very impressive run by the Giants, and truly the coaching is excellent. I will say this, though. I'm not sold on Kafka yet.
I agree. I think first year as OC, give him another year, but if it is a little conservative and a little vanilla at times, where I kind of wish Dable was calling plays, but I'm kind of happy he isn't as well at the same time, because I think he's able to focus more. But between those two, I'd rather have Dable call plays, obviously.
Yeah, it's really about the play sequencing, and especially the area of frustration in the offense has been when we get past midfield, but we're not close enough for a field goal. We struggle in that so much. And when he gets there, it's been very consistent with what he does. Either he'll do run, or pass, or he's trying plays again that just do not work, such as, screens. They got to give up on it. We have never been able to run a screen since Tiki Barber. Like, they just got to stop.
It's the only team that can't do it.
I know. But when teams do it against us, oh, man, that ball's gone.
Yeah. Well, we lost on a screen. It was a wide receiver to Jetta. Yeah, to Jefferson.
Yep.
And they go in and they take the field goal. But
a nice 61-yard burger. Nice.
Yep. Hell, our own kicker did it to us like 6 years ago. So
if we can't beat them, sign them to a contract.
Absolutely. But Mike and Hank, let's get into our keys to the game. And Mike, we'll start with you as the guest. What's one thing the Giants must do to beat the Indianapolis Colts this Sunday?
They can't afford any mistakes on offense. They can afford sacks. They're going to give up a couple, unfortunately, but they cannot afford turnovers. And the Giants have been pretty good this year of not turning the ball over. They can afford perhaps 1, but they have to be past the 50. If they turn over the ball at the 20-yard line, it's going to be very challenging to come back from that. I am not excited. I know a lot of teams are just putting away the Colts. I get it. Offensively, they're looking very weak. That was a home game they played, and they multiple interceptions, but what if Foles doesn't have those interceptions? I do wonder, what kind of drives they would have gotten out of that. Could they have scored a touchdown? Could they have scored 2 touchdowns? I don't know. No, they can't afford any mistakes on offense. That's the big one. And then on defense, just continue to do what they're doing. Just shut them down, get to the quarterback. I would perhaps be a little bit less blitz heavy than they were last week against the Vikings. Just you got to have one guy back there in case there's an emergency play.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, I like that point a lot, Hank. I do think the turnovers thing is going to be huge because the Colts did force a couple by the Chargers last week. But what was your key?
My key to the game, I would have to say, definitely I would say definitely establish the run game early.
Yes.
Not so much because the Colts are not great at stopping the run, but I think another reason why I am going to go with this one is because if you're the Giants, like if you feed Saquon, run out a lot of clock and just keep the ball for a good amount of time,
sure,
there is no doubt in my mind they're winning this game. Absolutely no doubt at all.
Totally. But I will say take a couple shots. I mean, you're right. Rely on the run game more strategically, but go ahead. Do a couple of those Hodgins plays from the other week. Just don't do 3 passes in a row on downs. That's not going to work.
By the way, I also want to say it just because, it's my obligatory key to the game, and Tom knows exactly where I'm going with this. Please get off the field on 3rd down. I know I haven't really had to use it as much earlier on in the season because the Giants are really good at defending 3rd down, but this game, it's for a playoff spot. I think I kind of need to bring back my obligatory key to the game now.
Get off the field. I mean, all we got last year trying to get off the field on 3rd down, forget about it.
Oh, gosh.
Colts were 0 for 10 last week on 3rd down, if I'm not mistaken. So
we have a better defense than the Chargers. They got some good players. We're getting the job more so. I think we can beat them. I mean, we probably should. Like, if we don't beat them, it's going to be very depressing.
It is. For me, though, I think our one weakness is stopping the run, unfortunately, which has been a strength of the Giants historically. I do give Andre Patterson a lot of credit for helping groom up Dexter Lawrence this year.
Yes.
We saw what he did with interior guys with the Minnesota Vikings, and now he's doing it here. He's probably one of my favorite assistants, to be quite honest. But Dalvin Cook averaged 4 yards per carry against the Giants, which wasn't bad considering what the Giants have been giving up, but they have the 31st ranked run defense in the NFL. Even though Jonathan Taylor's done for the rest of the season, that combination of Zach Moss and Deion Jackson could be a problem because there's not much film on either of these guys with the Colts. Neither of them have rushed for over 200 yards. That's a good thing for the Giants, but it's also an uncertainty situation. Again, you don't have much on them.
Especially with positioning on defense. I mean, all I ask is this: I don't want the Giants to sleep on anybody, and I doubt they will because of how hungry players that have been here for a long time that have suffered through the losing, how hungry they're going to be this Sunday. But just no sleeping on anybody. I don't care who it is, who's out there. I don't care if it's Foles. The Giants can't look at any guy and say we got this. This is no chalked off win. Again, we're 2 mistakes away from this being an ugly game. That's all I'm going to say.
That's a great point.
Yes.
But moving on to our players to watch, Mike, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Hank. 2 players to watch for the Colts, and then 2 for the Giants.
You brought up one already with Moss as the running back. I'm a little concerned about that. The other one I want to bring up is Zaire Franklin. He's the linebacker for the Colts, and he is having a phenomenal season himself. He's one guy that they got to be a little bit careful about. They're trying to open up the run game. They're going to have to figure out a way to avoid this guy because he's really getting to the runners this year.
Yeah, he leads a team 150 tackles, so he is a problem.
Probably tackle anything and anything that moves.
Yeah.
All right. I am going to go with, for the Colts, I'm going to say Yannick Ngakoue. That guy has 9.5 sacks, forced fumble, 8 tackles for losses. Be interesting to see how our line does against him and containing him. So that's who I have for the Colts.
Yeah. I'm going to go with 2. Jelani Woods scares me only because he's a tight end. Um, he
Of
should
course.
And we can't defend tight ends no matter who it is. So yeah, I was going to say.
And he is a red zone threat this year. He has
Mhm.
3 touchdowns. Should be matched up against Landon. So that'll be interesting to see if he can develop chemistry with Nick Foles. And then I do think Quentin Nelson is a really, again, I'm biased. Mike, I know you're a Spartan guy. I'm a Notre Dame guy. Quentin Nelson's the best guard in football.
He's been slow the last couple of years, though. He was injured last year. He's not had a particularly good year. I know he made the Pro Bowl, but there's a lot of talk now about his contract that's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, 5th-year guy like Saquon. So
Right.
I like him. I also like Stephon Gilmore. Hell, I'll throw a third in there. I mean, guy's been really good in pass coverage. The Colts defense has been their strength for the most part.
Totally.
Their only strength.
They've won 4 games.
Yeah, absolutely.
Granted, they gave a 35-point comeback or whatever that was, but oh well.
And the reason, and people are like, oh, well, they have 3 receivers over 500 yards, and Pittman, Pierce, and Campbell, but they're playing from behind half the time, right?
Yeah, and neither of those guys is the guy, so therefore they're dividing it equally.
Yeah. But now we'll go with 2 for our G-men, Mike.
All right. I'm going to have to run after this one, unfortunately, guys. Again, appreciate you having me on, but...
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
All right. So, Mike, we'll let you go, and then we'll get your 2.
All right, sounds good. All right, so for the Giants players to watch, I am going to go with, and I think you guys kind of knew I was going to say this player because I talked about how important it was for them to get the running game going. Got to go with my guy, Andrew Thomas, number 7. Yeah. And as far as my other Giant, that's going to be a key to watch. And Tom, I feel like I'm stealing this from you, but keep in mind I'm doing this for a reason, and that reason being was I said as far back as like the second half of the season that he was going to start to break out. Give me Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Bernard Ryman and Braden Smith will have their hands full. That's all I'm going to say. Mm-hmm. But, Mike, could you give us 2 before you hop off here, and then we'll let you go?
Absolutely. Aziz, I need that man forcing turnovers like he always does. It's going to be a big one, a big impact on the edge. Then on the offensive side of the ball, I want Hodgins to have that Victor Cruz Eagles game 2011, and I can see that this is that game. Make himself stretch the field. Don't just get a bunch of yards. I want to see him get a couple touchdowns. That'd be nice.
Tied first on the team with 3. 7 big plays as well. Only 7 games played. Quickly for me, Daniel Jones and Dexter Lawrence.
Amen.
Those are my 2, hands down. But Mike, I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Totally, guys.
You, as always, make sure to follow Mike at Spartan Mike 96 on Twitter. And Mike, one more time, where can people find New York Giants Rush?
You can just find us New York Giants Rush on Twitter, and then on YouTube it's the same thing. New York Giants Rush. We got the Giants Guys podcast, and we got a lot of fun content. So again, guys, thank you so much. Go Giants! I hope we win this, and I hope it'll be so cheerful for this fan base after all these years, man. Go Big Blue.
Absolutely. And hey, enjoy the game Sunday.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care.
All right. Happy New Year.
You too.
All right. That was Spartan Mike. Always a fun chat with him. Hank, I think Mike brought up a good point with Isaiah Hodgins. I knew he was probably going to take him, but again, I think the Colts have a lot working against them here. The Giants are getting healthier, with Dory, Aziz, and Leonard all getting healthy. X, he won't play this week, but, he's also getting healthier now. He's back practicing. The Colts will be without Ashton Dulin, unfortunately, who took that brutal hit from Derwin James on Monday Night Football. James got ejected for it. So he's in concussion protocol. Tight end Kyle Granson with an ankle injury. He did not participate today. And then one of their starting corners, and Kenny Moore II, also did not practice with an ankle. So, Hank.
Yes.
What's your score prediction?
My score prediction. Oh boy, this is I'm gonna give you another relatively low scoring ish game. I'm going to say the Giants win by a final score of, let's say, 22-13.
I like it. So you have Giants 22.
It's not going to be dominant, but I think it'll be low scoring to the point where the Giants eventually pull away. They get that late touchdown. Meadowlands goes nuts. And yeah. Oh, man. I can't believe we're talking about a possible playoff spot, but I also got to try to stay a little level headed because,
I'm going 24-13 G-Men. Daniel Jones throws a couple touchdown passes. Hodgins and Bellinger will be my two picks. I think the Colts are going to struggle. They're going to turn the ball over early. I think they have one good drive where they score a touchdown in this game. I just don't think they're equipped to beat this team. The Giants are locked in. They're determined right now. That home crowd is going to be rocking on Sunday at MetLife Stadium to open up 2023, and the Giants will be making their first playoff appearance in 6 seasons. So, folks,
like that.
That's going to wrap up the show for tonight. Apologies that Sam couldn't join us. She'll be back next week. Spartan Mike, always a fun chat. Want to thank him a lot for joining us. Quick reminder, if you're new and you like what you watch, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. I know we had some new watchers tonight. You can watch us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. We hope everybody is enjoying the holidays. Garth comes in here and says, goal. Yes, we know the Lightning just scored. And we did have a comment from Sean Militello. Just want to address this. Sean, I know, I'm not sure if you're still in the chat here now, but, Daniel Jones is starting to prove that he is the future of this football team. And I'm very, very happy to say that. And our good buddy, Brian McCardle from the Stand Sports, our website manager here at Review and Preview Sports. Good show, boys. Go Big Blue. Hank, any final thoughts?
Oh, man. I'm still kind of nervous for this game. I am not going to lie, but let's not kid ourselves. This is a good thing. I have been longing to go into a Sunday with this sort of feeling. And, man, I would love to somehow be able to find a way to make it to this game too, just to be able to join in on the celebration if we win. But then again, I know, Tom, you're probably giving me a look like I have 3 heads with that idea.
Hank, the Giants can still win if you don't attend this game, and the Giants can still win if you attend this game. Both can be true. Both can be true.
You're damn right.
And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.